5 days left of campaign 2022. The government hoping its super for housing plan will turn the focus back to them and turn voters back to them, as millions have already voted. Let's bring in my colleague Andrew Clennell, our political editor. That's the issue here. We discussed it yesterday at the Liberal launch. The timing of all of this, you've got 3 million or thereabouts, upwards of 3 million, probably already having cast their votes. Now, this policy, which Scott Morrison hoping and saying is a game changer.
It's the roll of the dice, Kieran. Can this Scott Morrison first home buyers superannuation policy shift momentum towards the Liberals in the last week of the campaign? The policy promises that up to $50,000 of young people's superannuation can go towards a deposit on their home, as long as those home buyers come up with 5% themselves. So when and how was this policy formulated? Well, we know moderate Liberal backbenchers Jason Falinski, Tim Wilson and Andrew Bragg, who hate Paul Keating's compulsory superannuation, have been pushing for first home buyers to be able to access superannuation for years. I'm told this policy was considered to put in the budget in April, but held back. A government source has also told me it was held back late to stop the effectiveness of opposition from the huge union industry superannuation sector. I'm also told that as this group of backbenchers pushed for this around 2 years ago, then Industrial Relations Minister Christian Porter opposed it in the belief that it would affect what he was negotiating with the ACTU over industrial reforms, given it would create anger out of the unions. And of course, he didn't get those reforms up anyway. I'm also told the policy was under consideration during the last election campaign, where, like this time, there was an announcement on first home buyers, the deposit scheme, from Scott Morrison just a few days out from the election. Assistant Treasurer and Housing Minister Michael Sukkar was clear when we interviewed him yesterday that he did not think the policy would have a material effect on house prices.
We've looked at this policy very closely over many months.
So how much will it inflate home prices by?
Well, we don't expect that it will. When you think about
It won't at all. It won't inflate home prices.
Not in a material way, because when you look at the size of the Australian housing market, $9.9 trillion, you look at the number of first home buyers there are a year, they're about 100,000, about a third of all new homes, or less than a third of all new homes. Importantly, we've calibrated this policy that you can only take out up to 40% or $50,000 of your super. You've got to have demonstrated savings of at least 5% as well to show that you can service the debt that you're going to take on in order to buy your home. It's been calibrated at a level that's not going to have a material impact, but importantly will help people buy their first home.
The government's theory is this: there are $687 billion worth of house sales a year in Australia. 1% or $6 billion of those involve first home buyers. If 2/3 of first home buyers use the super plan, you might then see a 0.6% rise in sales, is the logic, and that wouldn't affect prices that much. Nevertheless, the Minister in charge of superannuation, Jane Hume, and Prime Minister Scott Morrison had different spins on this morning.
I would imagine that there would be a lot of people that bring forward their decision to buy a house. So I would imagine in the short term, you might see a bump in house prices, but that doesn't play out the long-term benefits.
This gives people access to their superannuation to buy a home, which includes buying new homes. That means new stock. You would have seen on the plan that you saw in there, whole areas of new land opening up for development, which will mean new stock. That means more supply. That means putting downward pressure on what is otherwise rising pressure.
Scott Morrison with two pictures here. One against the union super funds. The other is it is your money and you should be able to do what you like with your superannuation.
We're helping first home buyers and Australians own their own home. And this scheme, which says you're in control of your own money, you're in control of where it's invested, you're back in the driver's seat when it comes to fulfilling the aspirations that you have, this scheme enables you to do that. If you're asking me, am I going to agree with those who want to stand with the big union super funds? I'm going to stand with the home buyer. That's who I'm standing with.
Labor had heard a rumour as early as Thursday that Scott Morrison was planning a housing announcement on Sunday, so they were ready for the possibility. A phone call between Anthony Albanese, Jim Chalmers, Jason Clare and Katie Gallagher, among others, yesterday, decided swiftly they could not go for the policy as they believed it would trash super and that young people did not have much superannuation to contribute anyway. Here was Anthony Albanese on the policy today.
I agree with our policy. Our policy is measured, it's targeted, it will make a positive difference. Together with our policies with the Housing Australia Future Fund, it will make a difference in terms of increasing supply and putting a roof over people's heads.
The Morrison policy is more than a great foil to Labor's Help to Buy First Home Buyers scheme, where the government would take up to a 40% equity stake in your home. And Tanya Plibersek, the Labor frontbencher, appeared a bit ropey on the detail on that Labor plan this morning.
Period is that house prices are generally going up. It's not complicated at all, Barnaby. It might be complicated for you. It's pretty simple, actually.
Is it taxable income or gross income? Tanya, just tell me, which one is it?
Oh, Barnaby, honestly...
It's your policy. Wow. It's the last week of the election. Is it taxable or gross income? Tanya? No idea.
Tanya?
Crickets.
Barnaby,
incredible. You guys are incredible. You're just not across your stuff.
It's their income. It's their taxable income. I don't know why it's so complicated for Barnaby.
So they're gross.
Okay,
income.
so if someone, their advisor just told her.
From what I've read, it's the gross income. Of course, the big argument, which has a lot of merit, is that the key issue to driving up prices is supply. Should I say driving them down? The government says its empty nester policy announced on the weekend helps that along, but not enough. One Liberal actually said to me that one option that has not been adopted is the government using national competition policy to threaten the states with funding if they don't open enough developments. So threaten to take away their funding. Anyway, for Scott Morrison, this is all about capturing debate in the last week and trying to seize momentum at the end of the campaign. As one coalition strategist said to me at the weekend, if the momentum breaks our way, we win. If the momentum breaks their way, we're out of a job. Well, the PM has given himself his best momentum chance here with this policy, but it is a big ask to get yourself another 5% in primary vote in 1 week. The truth is the Liberals are relying on two things, Kieran: a momentum shift generally and a hope that the polls are just plain wrong.